All right, this is going to be exercise 10-33, which starts on page 392 of your text. And we're going to look at accounts receivable collections and the sensitivity analysis. It's asking us to prepare the cash receipts from accounts receivable in the month of May. And our collection time is over a 3-month period. We collect some in the month of sale, some in the month following sale, 60% in the month following sale, 10% in the second month following the month of sale, and 5% are bad debts. So we want to go ahead and write off the accounts receivable at the end of the second month after the month. We want to check our accounts receivable for May. So the best way to kind of look at this is if we start with, we'll start with the grid, and I'm going to put May up here and then the accounts receivable. And that will be from March sales, April sales, and May sales. And then I'm going to put AR net. All right. And so on this, our March sales, we're told, were $130,000. And one of the things that makes this one a little bit easier is there's no discount rate in here. So we have $130,000, and we're going to collect 10% 2 months following the sale. So 10% of $130,000 is going to be $13,000. And then we write off everything at the end of the second month following sale. So we'll have 0 accounts receivable and 0 net accounts receivable at the end of May for sales made in March. All right, then April comes along, and it's $160,000. And so in April, we'd collect 25% of that, but in May, we're going to collect 60% of that. So 160,000 times 60% is $96,000 that we will collect from April sales in May. Now, the accounts receivable, the gross amount will be 15% of that 160,000, or a quarter of that. And so that will be 24,000. But in truth, even though 15% are shown as accounts receivable, only 10% of those sales will be collected. And so that will be 16,000. That's the net amount of accounts receivable. All right, so then we do the May sales. May sales are $210,000. And we collect 25% is $52,500 that we'll collect in May. Our accounts receivable, however, will be 75% of that, which is $157,500. But remember, we're only going to collect 70% of that. And so that's actually going to be $147,000. All right, we simply go through and add all of those up. 13,000 plus 96,000 plus 52,500 is going to be 161,500 will be our cash collections for May. Our accounts receivable at the end of the period will be 500. 181,500 will be our accounts receivable, and our net accounts receivable will be 163,000. All right. that's part one. Let's see. Oh, that's part 1, 2, and 3 of that problem. It then asks us to recalculate the requirements of part 1 and 2 under the assumption that the collections in the month of sale are 60% and the first month following sale is 25%. So we'll set up the same grid again, except they only want the accounts receivable, not the net accounts receivable. So we set that up with May. This is part 4. And so the accounts receivable. All right. So in March, we're still going to collect the 10% just like we did before. And that's 13,000. So nothing changes for March. In April, however, we sell 160,000 and we collect 60% of that in April and 25% in May, and so that would be 40,000. The accounts receivable would still be the 15%, the same amount that we had before, or 16,000. Right? And then in May, we're going to sell 210,000, and we're going to collect 60% of that, and so that will be 126,000. Our accounts receivable on that, however, will be 40%. So 210,000 times 40% is 84,000. And so that's 100,000 in accounts receivable and 179,000 on the cash collection. All right, so that answers part 4. It says, what are the benefits and likely costs of moving to the situation described in requirement 4? Probably the benefits are is you collect your cash faster up front. The cost of that, however, is you're going to have to be quicker with your billing, be on top of that a little bit better, may have to offer a discount in order to speed those collections up, and so you won't collect as much net. And so it just becomes a timing issue and what's your cost of capital and those sorts of things that make it kind of interesting. All right, so that concludes this exercise, and we will move on to another one.